Celebrity junkies, pull up a chair and lock your doors because tonight I am exposing the marriage crisis that almost destroyed the queen of gospel music herself, Sinach, and how her own husband, Pastor Joe Egbu, lit the match that nearly burned everything to the ground, only for her to rise from those ashes like a phoenix reborn in fire. At 56 years old, this is a woman whose voice has literally pulled people back from the edge of death. Waymaker was playing in operating theaters when surgeons needed miracles. It echoed through delivery rooms when mothers were losing hope. It reached into prison cells where men had forgotten what redemption sounded like. It traveled to war zones where soldiers needed something to believe in beyond the chaos. This woman was untouchable. Billions of streams across every platform. Presidents personally invited her to sing at state dinners. Stadiums shutting down the moment she lifts the microphone to her lips. And yet behind the scenes, hidden from every camera and every headline, her marriage was bleeding out in complete silence. This is a story they prayed would never come out. By the time I finish telling you everything, you will never sing Waymaker again without remembering the exact night it became her war cry against her own pain. Let us go back to the very beginning. 2014, a private wedding ceremony with only 30 guests in attendance. No phones allowed inside the venue. Pure class. Pure intention. From that sacred day forward, they became the blueprint for every couple in ministry. Pastor Joe preached fire on Sunday mornings while Sinach led worship with that voice that makes heaven lean in closer. Then both of them post the cutest couple goals you have ever seen on your timeline. Matching African prints at every event they attended together. Holding hands at airports like teenagers still drunk on first love. Writing captions like "My king and my queen" for the whole world to witness. We ate it up. Every single picture. Every single video. We believed we were watching the perfect marriage unfold in real time. Then 2019 through 2022 became the absolute peak. Sinach was winning Billboard awards and making history as an African gospel artist. She was receiving keys to cities across continents. She was performing at the United Nations for world leaders. Meanwhile, Pastor Joe was quietly pastoring their church in Lagos, staying behind the scenes, and cheering her on like the proudest husband alive. He would share her posts. He would comment with fire emojis. He would preach sermons about how a real man supports his wife's calling without jealousy. Everybody looked at them and said that is how you do marriage and ministry at the same time without losing either one. Then 2023 arrived. And the pictures just stopped. No Valentine's Day post for the first time in 9 years. No anniversary celebration on their usual date. No Christmas family photo that December. The last joint picture anyone could find was from February 2023. After that, nothing but radio silence between them online. Sinach started posting only solo stage photos from her performances. Pastor Joe started posting only sermon clips and scripture graphics. No tags. No mentions. No acknowledgement that the other person even existed. Fans started connecting the dots with the precision of trained investigators. Comments flooded every post. Where is Pastor Joe these days? Anybody else notice they do not tag each other anymore? Is everything okay with Pastor and Sinach? Some fans went full detective mode and started comparing timestamps on their separate posts. They discovered Sinach was in Dubai doing an event while Pastor Joe was preaching in Abuja on the exact same day. No missing my husband's caption from her. No praying for my wife's post from him. Nothing. The silence between them was absolutely deafening for those of us paying attention. For almost 18 months, they kept up the perfect image whenever cameras were present in public. When they did appear together at the same event, something was visibly different. The smiles did not reach their eyes anymore. No more hand-holding. No more stolen glances. On stage, they stood apart like two strangers who happened to be sharing the same platform. Those of us who have watched couples fall apart before knew exactly what we were witnessing. Something was very, very wrong behind closed doors. Then August 2024 dropped the bomb that nobody saw coming. The bomb that changed everything. Pastor Joe went live on his church Facebook page immediately after Sunday service ended. It was just him sitting there alone. No worship team behind him. No formal announcement. No preparation. He sat in front of that camera looking like a man who had not slept properly in weeks. Dark circles under his eyes. Shoulders hunched forward like he was carrying invisible weight. And then he spoke these exact words that I will never forget for as long as I live. I have been quiet for too long. Many of you see my wife on stages with presidents and kings. You see her winning awards and changing lives around the world. But you do not see me coming home to an empty house night after night. You do not see the loneliness of being married to someone the whole world needs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I love my wife. I still do everything with me. But fame took away the woman I married and gave me a brand instead. Some nights I sit alone in our bedroom at 2 a.m. and she is on another continent entirely, and I ask God, when was the last time my wife simply asked me how my day was? When did she last just sit with me without checking her phone? When did we last pray together without it being for a camera? I am not saying this out of bitterness. I am saying this because I am broken. And I am tired of pretending I am okay when I am dying inside every single day. Then he cried. Full tears streaming down his face. A pastor weeping openly on a Facebook Live with no filter and no script. At the peak of that broadcast, 87,000 people were watching in real time. The comment section completely froze. Nobody typed anything. Nobody knew what words could possibly fit that moment. We all just watched a man unravel his marriage in public because the private pain had become too heavy to carry alone. The video got deleted 2 hours after it ended. But junkies, you already know how this works. Screenshots were captured. Screen recordings were saved. That clip spread like wildfire across every platform imaginable. Gospel WhatsApp groups crashed from the traffic. Aunties were calling aunties in different countries to discuss what they had just witnessed. Pastors were texting other pastors asking, "Did you see what Pastor Joe just said about Sinach?" The Christian internet completely broke that night. The backlash was instant and absolutely brutal from both directions. Some women attacked him without mercy. So because your wife is winning, you are jealous. You cannot handle a successful woman. You want her to shrink so you can feel like a man. Some men rallied behind him with equal force. Finally, a pastor told the truth. Ministry marriages are dying quietly everywhere and nobody wants to admit it. He spoke about what thousands of husbands are feeling. But the worst part of all of this is that Sinach was in South Africa on tour when that video dropped. She was thousands of miles away, preparing for a major concert, when her phone started exploding with notifications. She found out what her husband said the same time we did. On the internet. Like a complete stranger. Like someone with no connection to the man speaking. Sources close to her team later revealed that she locked herself in her hotel room for 3 full days after watching that video. No rehearsals happened. No social media activity. No communication with anyone except her closest assistant who brought food she barely touched. Just complete and total silence from a woman processing the most public betrayal of her private pain. Her team scrambled to figure out how to respond. Her promoters panicked about upcoming shows. But Sinach stayed in that room, crying and praying and trying to understand how the man she loved could expose their wounds to 87,000 strangers without warning her first. The internet split into vicious factions. Team Sinach argued he embarrassed her on a global stage without her consent. That is betrayal in its cruelest form. Team Joe argued he spoke a truth that ministry couples everywhere are too afraid to say out loud. Some people blamed her for being too focused on career. Some people blamed him for not communicating privately first. Some people blamed the church for putting impossible pressure on pastor marriages. Everyone had an opinion. Nobody had a solution. Even the biggest names in gospel music went completely silent. Frank Edwards posted nothing. Nathaniel Bassey said nothing. Every major gospel artist understood that touching this situation publicly could burn them too. So they all watched from the sidelines like the rest of us, praying for a miracle but preparing for a divorce announcement. Sinach canceled 3 major events back to back. First time in over 20 years of ministry that she had ever canceled anything. Promoters lost millions in revenue. Fans demanded refunds for tickets. Blogs ran headlines asking if this was the end of Sinach's ministry entirely. The woman who had been unstoppable for 2 decades was suddenly invisible, retreating from the world she had dominated for so long. Then one Sunday morning in October 2024, with absolutely zero warning, Sinach posted a video. 47 seconds long. No makeup on her face. Hair wrapped simply in a scarf. Just her sitting at a keyboard in what appeared to be her home studio. Natural light coming through a window. No production. No polish. Just raw, unfiltered Sinach. She sang in the softest voice anyone had ever heard from her. Almost a whisper. Even when my heart is breaking. Even when I cannot see. You are still faithful. You are still good. The caption was only 3 words. He is still faithful. No explanation of what happened. No shade thrown at her husband. No defense of herself. No husband mention whatsoever. Just those 3 words pointing upward instead of backward. That video exploded. 8 million views in 48 hours. Mercy Chinwo posted crying emojis in the comments. Travis Green quoted the video on his page. International artists who had never interacted with gospel content shared it. Even Cardi B posted it on her Instagram story with prayer hands. Yes, really. That actually happened. That single post ended the public conversation overnight. Everybody who had been debating and arguing and picking sides suddenly went quiet. Something about watching her worship through visible pain instead of defending herself through visible anger changed the entire energy. The woman chose faith over fighting. And the internet, for once, respected it enough to stop talking. 3 weeks later, Sinach showed up unannounced at a small worship night in Abuja. Tiny venue. Only 300 people capacity. No major production. No backup singers. No full band. Just her in a simple white dress and one guitarist. The organizer later said that when Sinach walked backstage, she was glowing with something supernatural, but her eyes were clearly swollen from recent crying. She carried both beauty and brokenness in the same moment. She took the microphone and spoke directly to the crowd. I did not come here tonight to explain anything to anybody. I came here to worship the God who sees what nobody else sees. Some of you in this room are going through absolute hell right now and still smiling for the cameras. Some of you are dying inside and performing alive on the outside. This song is for you. Then she sang Waymaker slower than she has ever sung it in any recording or performance. Each word stretched out like she was feeling it for the first time. By the time she reached the bridge, she was sobbing so hard the guitarist had to carry the melody alone while she cried into the microphone. You are here. Moving in our midst. People in that small room were screaming. Falling to their knees. Speaking in tongues. The presence of God filled that tiny venue so thick that people could barely stand. One woman later testified publicly that she was healed of stage 4 cancer that same night during that exact moment. Doctors confirmed the tumors disappeared with no medical explanation. The video of Sinach crying through those lyrics became the most shared gospel clip of 2024 across every platform. Something about watching strength break down into surrender ministered more powerfully than any polished performance ever could. Behind the scenes, what the public did not know is that Sinach and Pastor Joe had begun seeing one of the most respected Christian marriage counselors on the continent. Pastor Kingsley Okonkwo and his wife, Mildred. Twice a week, no phones allowed in sessions, complete confidentiality agreements signed. Real work. Hard conversations. Tears and breakthroughs and setbacks and progress. Pastor Joe moved out of their home for 2 months during this process. He stayed in the church guest house to give them both space to heal without the pressure of pretending things were normal. Then slowly, carefully, he started coming back. First just for dinners. then staying overnight occasionally. Then attending her online worship sessions anonymously, watching from his phone without